You're already dying. You just don't know it when the roof above your head groans like an animal in its sleep and the rail under your boots vibrates with a warning nobody listens to. The earth shivers. The tunnel dust lifts in a thin, lazy veil. Somewhere deep in the rock, something shifts its weight. Then the mountain exhales. The sound hits first, a deep, rolling crack that isn't in front of you or behind you. It's everywhere at once. Air slams into your chest, a pressure wave that punches your ribs from the inside. The timbers scream as their load changes. The light bulbs overhead flicker in panic, once, twice, like they're trying to decide whether they want to see what happens next. They decide no. Darkness comes down faster than rock does. You suck in a breath to shout, and instead you inhale the mine. Dust and grit and powdered stone, thick enough to chew. It hits the back of your throat like dry cement. Your eyes slam shut on instinct, but that doesn't help. The dust finds the gaps, the edges, the corners. You cough, and the cough doesn't clear anything. It just pulls more of the mountain into your lungs. And you understand, in that first blind choking second, that the worst part isn't going to be getting crushed. It's going to be staying alive afterward, buried, with no way out and more time than you want to realize it. You started the day like any other. You clocked in with a pen that barely worked because the ink never flows right this far underground. You nodded to the foreman, traded tired jokes with the man on the cage controls, signed your name as if that made you permanent. At the shaft mouth, the dawn light was already thin, barely touching the rim. You stepped into the cage with 8 other men and let the steel bars close around you. The descent is always the same ritual. The shudder as the cage starts down, the way the sunlight disappears in one clean line, like a curtain dropping. The smell that creeps up to meet you, damp rock, oil, old sweat, the faint sour of explosives from yesterday's blasts. Voices that were jokes at the top turn into quiet grunts the further you go, as though the air itself is squeezing the noise out of your lungs. It gets hotter in layers. At first, it's just a heavy warmth on your neck. Then it's a pressure behind your eyes. Then it's the kind of heat that crawls up into your nose and sits there so every breath feels thick. The cage rattles against the guide rails. Your hand wraps around the bar without thinking. You watch the levels go by, seams and old galleries flickering past in dim electric light, and feel that tiny twinge in your gut that says, not today. Anything but today. Nobody says that out loud, of course. They talk instead. Mountains whispering, one of the older men mutters as a fine trickle of dust falls from the cage roof. He squints up, eyes narrowed, as if he can see the weight of the stone above him. Mountains always whispering, another says. It's when it stops you worry. A couple of the younger ones snort, but it's not quite laughter. It's a reflex. There is a rule here. You joke until you can't. The cage shudders to a stop. The gate clanks open. Heat rolls in, thicker and wetter, carrying that burnt, metallic taste of rock that's been drilled and blasted for too many years. You step out into it like stepping into someone else's breath. The tunnel is narrower than you remember. It always is when you've been away even a single day. The darkness presses in around your helmet lamp. The light doesn't reach the roof. It just carves out a pale cone in front of your boots. You walk in that tiny circle like it's the only world there is. Behind you, the cage rattles back up, chains clanking, a metal heart leaving you behind in stone lungs. You fall into the routine. Check your gear. Belt tight. Lamp steady. Mask hanging at your chest, straps tangled as always. You tell yourself you'll fix that later. There is no later, but you don't know that yet. The walk-in takes time. The deeper levels wind and fold, intersections marked by hand-painted signs you learn by heart in your first month. You pass through pockets of different air, cooler drafts from old workings, hot stagnant pockets that smell like a closed fist. The deeper you go, the more the air feels used, like other lungs got there first and left you the scraps. You feel it in small ways first. A faint tremor that shakes the dust off the roof in little whispers. A vibration that hums through the drill steel even before you fire it up. The way your breath comes a little shorter than usual, as if someone shaved 1% off the oxygen and thought you wouldn't notice. You do notice. Feels off, you say to nobody in particular as you pass a crosscut where the walls are sweating. The man beside you, thick-necked, face carved with old coal dust, rolls his shoulders. Rock always feels off, he says, but he doesn't say it with conviction. His lamp beam darts up to the roof, lingers on a hairline crack you've never seen before. Foreman will shout about support again. Same as always. You keep walking. What else is there to do? The mountain is a fact. You're the temporary part. At the face, the heat is soaked into everything. Stone, steel, men. The drills have their own language, high whining scream when they bite, guttural rumble when they're just smearing dust around. You plug your ears as best you can and feel the vibration anyway, through your fingers on the handles. Every blow of the bit into rock sends a little echo up your arms, into your jaw, behind your eyes. The dust is constant. It hangs in the air like a thought you can't shake. Even with the fans running and the wet drills spewing their pathetic mist, there's always that dry, grinding taste on your tongue. You breathe through it, because you have to. Someone cracks a joke over the noise. Something about pay, something about the foreman's wife, and everyone gives the obligatory huff. Nobody laughs with their whole body. The energy is wrong. Edges. The mountain is whispering again. Only this time, it's not a slow, patient noise. It's impatient. You feel it in your feet when you stand still. A low, slow roll like distant thunder. The roof timbers creak just once. You tell yourself they always creak. That's what wood does in heat. You keep working. You don't look up. You should have. The first real warning isn't the sound. It's the pressure. 1 second, the air in front of your face is just hot and heavy. The next, it feels like someone shoved a mattress into the tunnel. Your eardrums tighten, a weird internal flinch. The hair on your arm stands up even before the noise hits. Then the noise hits. A booming crack tears through the rock. Not a sharp explosion, but a deep tearing bellow. The kind of sound you feel in your teeth. The drill jumps in your hands as the face shifts. Somewhere down the line, someone yells down, purely out of instinct, but there's nowhere to go that isn't under something. The roof timbers erupt. It sounds like ribs breaking inside a giant chest. Naked rock shears away in slabs, meeting the support with a sick, crunching finality. The lights flicker, stutter, then blow, popping out in a shower of tiny sparks before the darkness slams down. You run, or you try. The floor bucks under you like a live thing. Dust comes first, streaming past your face in a choking wave. Stones the size of fists rain down, then the size of heads, then bigger. The tunnel tightens in an instant, the walls bowing as rock finds new angles to rest in. The air is a physical thing now, a heavy, shoving presence filled with grit that claws at your eyes and throat. Someone ahead of you goes down with a scream cut short by a wet crunch. Your boot skids on something that wasn't there a second ago. You slam shoulder first into the wall, helmet ringing. The only light is the wild swinging of lamps on collapsing helmets. Streaks of white in a storm of brown. You think, in a small ridiculous corner of your mind, this wasn't on the safety poster. A beam. You don't see it, you only feel it. Slams into your lower legs. The pain is bright, clean, like someone drew a white-hot line across your ankles. Your body folds in half. Your hands hit rock and dust. Your lungs try to scream and get nothing but powdered mountain for their trouble. The collapse rolls past you like a wave. It goes on longer than you think rock should be able to move. The tunnel coughs, chokes, retches stone and timber until it runs out of things to drop. Then comes the worst sound of all. Silence. You cough until you're not sure if you're still breathing or just convulsing. The dust is so thick it isn't air anymore. It's something you can hold if your fingers would work. It coats your tongue, your teeth, the back of your throat. Every inhale feels like dragging a file across raw meat. Your eyes stream, trying to flush it, but the tears just make mud. When the shaking stops, your ears ring, high, thin, a needle of sound that blots out everything else. You open your mouth, maybe to yell, maybe to breathe, and nothing comes out but a ragged rasp. The world has closed into a circle. Your lungs, your heart, the weight on your legs. Your legs. You look down. For a second, there's nothing but brown. Dust, rock, splintered timber. Your lamp is knocked to the side, beams slicing across the floor. You can't see your boots. You can't move them either. You shift your hips, try to pull one foot back. Pain detonates up your shin, bright and electrical, and you see stars behind your eyes. You stop. You breathe. You try again, gentler this time. Nothing. The beam pressing across your ankles doesn't budge. You can feel it in the way your bones complain. You're alive. That thought comes weirdly calmly. You wiggle your fingers. They move. You take a breath that actually pulls in something like air, even if it's half dust. Your chest hurts, but it rises. You're alive, and you're stuck. Anyone. You manage, the word breaking apart like old rock. You cough. Your tongue is dry and coated. Talking scrapes it raw. Anyone. For a moment, there's nothing but ringing. Then, between the ringing and your own breath, you hear it. A sound that doesn't belong to stone or steel. A groan. Human. Close. You turn your head toward it. Your helmet lamp smears light through the dust, revealing a shape half buried under a tangle of timber and rock. You recognize the orange of a safety vest, a hand clenched around nothing. The fingers twitch once. Hey, your voice comes out strange. Higher, thin. Hey, can you? Your throat closes on the dust. You cough again, each hack a knife in your ribs. When you can drag in another breath, the groan is gone, replaced by a different sound. A wet, shallow breathing, then nothing. You wait for the next inhale that doesn't come. The ringing in your ears is fading now. Other sounds seep in. Somewhere deeper in the working, someone is screaming. Not words. Just the raw sound of a terrified animal backed into a corner. It cuts through the tunnel, then abruptly stops in a harsh, ugly crunch. You swallow. The dust has pasted itself to the back of your tongue. Your chest rises and falls too fast. You know that's bad. Panic eats air. Air is the one thing you don't have enough of. Slow, you tell yourself, and the word sounds like it's coming from somewhere above you. You try. In, out, shallow, controlled. Each breath drags more grit inside. The heat presses down harder now. With the ventilation cut off, the tunnel is an oven. The rock radiates stored warmth back into you. You can feel it on your face, your bare wrists, the back of your neck where the helmet strap doesn't cover. Sweat climbs out of your pores and instantly becomes mud with the dust. You think about your mask. It's there, somewhere on your chest, straps twisted, rubber stiff with old use. You fumble for it with clumsy hands. Your fingers don't feel like they're attached to you, but they find canvas, then plastic, then the rubber lip of the seal. You tug it up to your face, coughing into it. The straps slip once, twice, your fingers refusing to coordinate. Finally, you get it on, the world shrinking to a smeared circle of plastic, and the sound of your own breathing inside the mask. It helped once. In drills, in training, in fictional emergencies. Now it just smells like old sweat and rubber and fear. The air changes minute by minute. At first it's just hot and gritty, something you can still call air if you're feeling generous. Then slowly it thickens. Your chest starts to notice the difference. That easy burn in your lungs sharpens into something else. A deep chemical burn that has nothing to do with effort and everything to do with what you're pulling in. The dust hangs in front of your lamp like fog. Every particle is something your body doesn't want. You can almost feel your alveoli protesting, tiny sacs filling with things that are not oxygen. The mask filter was never meant for this much. It gives up quickly. You know what else is in here. Methane, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. Names from the training manual. In the classroom, they were bullet points. Down here, they're invisible hands closing around your throat. You hear coughing from farther down the line, harsh and wet, then gurgling. The sound makes your chest tighten in sympathy, makes your own cough linger in your throat a little too long. You picture lungs turning from pink to grey to black, each breath another layer of rock dust lining them. Your light catches a swirl of something in the air that's thicker than dust. A low, shimmering haze that sits close to the roof, rolling lazily along the tunnel. Gas, lighter than air, waiting. Someone coughs closer by and tries to shout. Mask, they choke out, voice shredded. Then, more quietly, as if only talking to themselves, can't see. You try to listen for the fans, the reassuring thrum of air being pushed and pulled. Nothing. Just your own ragged breaths and the low occasional groan of settling rock overhead. The silence of dead machinery. You try to call out again, but your voice won't rise. It hits the inside of the mask and falls back into your chest, a weak echo. Time loses its edges. You can't see the sky, can't see the sun, can't see anything but the small circle your lamp hasn't choked on yet. You measure time in breaths now. In the rhythm of in, out, becomes in, out, in. Your head feels thick. Thoughts come slower, each one wading through syrup. You know that's another bullet point from the training wall. Confusion as oxygen drops, as CO climbs, as monoxide slides into your blood and sits in the seat meant for air. Your body is suffocating from the inside out. You hear the mountain again. Not with your ears, with your bones. A low, grinding shift that makes the rock under your palms tremble. Dust trickles from the roof in thin lines, falling onto your helmet, your shoulders, your mask. A pebble lands on your hand and stays there. That's all. For now, you realize sickly that the collapse isn't a single event. It's a process. It'll keep settling, inch by inch. Each new shift might be the one that turns your narrow pocket of survival into a solid wall. Water joins the mix. At first, it's just a lone, irregular drip from somewhere above your head. It taps the side of your helmet, then your shoulder. Then it finds your mask and runs down the outside, streaking the dust. Another seep starts higher up in the rock. You hear it patter on the floor behind you. The mountain is bleeding. You tilt your head back, and the next drop hits the exposed skin on your neck. It's cold, shockingly cold after all this heat. For a moment, you think salvation water. Your throat clenches in want. You lift your chin more, angling so the next drop hits your lips. It does, sliding over the edge of the mask where it doesn't quite seal. You taste it. Mineral, metallic, carrying the flavor of every strata it seeped through. You swallow greedily. There's more. Faster now. The drips turn to a thin trickle that runs along the curve of the rock and down across your face. It slides under the mask, pooling at the bottom. You breathe in damp air. Good, you think wildly. Moist. Helpful. Then it doesn't stop. The trickle becomes a steady line, then 2, then 3. Water slides down your hairline, your ears, the back of your neck. It cold burns paths through the dust on your skin. It pools at your hips where the tunnel floor dips, turning dust into thick mud that sucks at what's left of your boots. You cough and feel the wet inside the mask. It splashes against your nose, your lips. The seal wasn't designed for this. Each breath now comes with a small inward slap of water against your mouth. The air you're pulling in is not just hot and poisoned. It's heavy with humidity. You are simultaneously drowning and suffocating in slow motion. At some point, you stop worrying about rescue. The thought is there, dim and flickering. Men topside, alarms, phones ringing, someone's name being shouted 3 times in a row to make it more real. Maybe they're working right now, drilling, shoring, digging from another level, trying to reach you. But the idea is vague, distant. It belongs to a different body. The body you're in now has other priorities. One more breath. One more second without the roof coming down. One more drop of water caught on a cracked lip. Your world has shrunk to the space between your face and the rock in front of you. You can smell the stone now, not the dust, but the actual rock. Hot, mineral, something like rust and old blood. You can feel the heat of it against your cheek, where the mask doesn't quite reach. Your arms have gone from heavy to numb. You know they're there because you can see them. You can see the glove on your left hand, coated in fine grey dust, fingers curled loosely around nothing. When you tell them to move, they twitch once and stop. It's enough to make a tiny smear in the dust on the floor. That's all. Your legs stopped telling you anything a while ago. Pain burned bright for a time. A white, sharp line where the beam pinned your ankles. Then even that faded. You can't tell if that's mercy or just another step in the system shutting down. Your breathing is shallow and slow now. Each inhale feels like it might be the last that has any substance. There's a sweetness in it, not pleasant, but definite, a sickly note under the dust and sweat. Carbon monoxide, your training whispers from a faraway classroom. It rides your blood where oxygen should. It tells your brain everything's fine while it switches off the lights. You start to see things. At first, it's just movement in the dark that isn't there. A shadow crossing your peripheral vision where there's no space for anything to cross. Shapes forming in the drifting dust. A figure leaning against the opposite wall. The outline of a man standing in a crosscut that doesn't exist. You blink and they're gone. Blink again and they're back. Closer. Watching. You can hear voices too sometimes. Not the raw panic shouts from earlier. These are softer, low, like men talking on break at the surface. Complaints about wages. Jokes about the foreman. The clink of a thermos cup setting down on a bench. You know they're not real. The air's too bad for that. The brain does this when it's starving. It pulls old sounds from memory and drops them into the present like pebbles into a well. Still, you turn your head toward them because a part of you is stubborn enough to hope. The mountain groans again. It's lower this time, more of a long tired sigh than a crack. You feel it shudder through your pinned legs, up your spine, into your jaw. Pebbles skip across the floor and knock against your ribs. A thin crack opens in the wall next to your head, just wide enough to see blackness behind it. It's like the rock is showing you a glimpse of the heart you'll never reach. More dust falls, coating your helmet, your shoulders, your mask. You're too tired to brush it off. It collects, layer on layer, as if the mountain is already practicing burying you properly. Your lamp finally gives up. The light flickers, dimming to a sickly yellow. It brightens once in protest, then fades to the faintest of glows before going out completely. Darkness arrives, not with a bang, but with a soft click. You wait for panic. It doesn't come. You've moved past that. The dark doesn't change anything, really. Your world was already small. Now it's just smaller. You stare into nothing and still see shapes. The brain doesn't need light to misfire. Spots of brightness bloom and recede, little false stars inside your skull. Each one pulses in time with your slowing heart. Your mouth is dry. Even with the seep of water, your tongue sticks to your teeth. When you try to swallow, nothing moves. Your throat is tired of the effort. You try to speak one last time. A name maybe. A curse. A plea. You don't know which until you form it. Find me. The words barely clear your tongue. They hit the inside of the mask and go nowhere. Your last clear thought, sharp and small and almost funny, is that you hope they do, that they find what's left of you in a position that makes sense. Not twisted, not crumpled, sitting upright, maybe back against the rock, lamp dead, eyes open like you never stop trying to see the light. They do. Not now. Not today. Not in the frantic hours when drills scream and men shout and machinery chews frantically at the collapsed headings. Not even in the days when they tell your family they're still looking, still hopeful, still digging. 8 days later. By then, the story has already been told a dozen different ways, in a dozen different taverns and living rooms. An explosion, someone says. Bad engineering, says another. Cheap timber. Fault line. God's will. Company greed. Bad luck. Everybody has a reason. Nobody has the weight of the rock in their lungs like you did. The rescue team that finds you moves slower than the first wave. The urgency has curdled into a heavier thing. Duty. They pick through the broken galleries with care, testing each rock before they step, listening for the mountain's mood. When they break through into your pocket, their headlamps slice across a small silent scene. A narrow wedge of tunnel where the roof didn't quite make it all the way down. A beam across the floor, pinning bones that used to be legs. A body propped half upright against the wall, head bowed just enough to be mistaken for sleep at first glance. Your helmet is still on. Your mask is still hanging crooked across your face. Your eyes are open. One of the rescuers freezes. Jesus, he says softly, as if you can hear him. He's just sitting there. Another steps closer, kneels, feels for a pulse he knows he won't find. Procedure, habit, respect. His fingers touch cold fabric, colder skin. He flinches anyway. 8 days, he murmurs. 8 days down here. They talk quietly as they work, voices bouncing off the rock. About wives waiting up top. About the union. About how many they've pulled out breathing and how many they haven't. They log your name, your position, the time they found you, a line in a report, a number in a column, a proof that you were here. They carry you out as carefully as they can. The mountain watches, unmoved. On the surface, the sun feels wrong on skin that only remembers lamplight. The air is so clean it almost hurts. People stand in clusters. Families, officials, other miners on forced rest. They squint as the stretchers come up, flinching at every sheet-covered shape. Someone will say later that you looked peaceful, that your face wasn't twisted, that you must have gone quickly. It's easier that way, for them, for the ones who have to go back down tomorrow. The report will mention gases. It will mention rock failure, structural stress, the way heat and time and weight conspired. It will not mention the taste of dust on your tongue, the way the water dripped into your mask, the sound of one last breath in the dark. The disaster gets a name. They always do. A place, a seam, a number of dead. It will join a list: Kurires, Senginid, Bengsihu, Mononga, Soma. Different rock, different flags, same story. Stone above, men below, something giving way. People will argue about who's to blame. They'll talk about safety, oversight, negligence, fate. They'll raise glasses to the lost. They'll post headlines and think pieces, and then slowly they'll move on. The mountain won't. The tunnels remain. Old workings crisscross under new ones. Some are sealed, some forgotten. In the dark, the air is still, heavy with the ghost of old dust. Your pocket of survival, now empty, will slowly fill with flakes of rock, with dripping mineral, with time. In a few decades, nobody will remember exactly where you sat. In a century, nobody will know your name without opening a book. But down here, in this narrow space where the light never really reaches, the rock and the air still remember the shape of the breath you took last. And you, up there, wherever you are with your screen in your safe, clean air. You made it this far. If you're still listening, if you're still here with me in the dark, like, comment and subscribe. Help this story find another lost soul. One who's never thought about the heat, or the dust, or the moment the roof decides it's tired of holding. Because the mountain doesn't care who you are. It only cares that you're underneath it when it finally lets go.